With all the talk surrounding Charles Leclerc's curse heading into the 2022 Monaco Grand Prix, I thought what better a weekend to talk about some of the other curses that we've seen up and down the field. Because don't get me wrong, Charles Leclerc has been incredibly unlucky when it has come to the Monaco Grand Prix. But I'd argue there are some drivers out there who have been even more unlucky over the history of Formula One. Let's delve into my 5 favourite unlucky / cursed drivers of the Formula One grid. The first curse that I want to address, though, is that Nyck de Vries is cursed to never have a Formula One seat, and I don't think it's really his fault. In 2010, he signed up for the McLaren Junior Driver Program and worked his way up slowly through the Junior Series, up to the point where he really rose to my radar in 2018, when he finished 4th in F2, behind just 3 drivers you might have heard of. George Russell went on to win that series, Lando Norris coming home in 2nd place, and Alex Albon in 3rd, just ahead of Nyck. So I feel like we can give him the benefit of the doubt that he finished behind those 3, as those 3 have gone on to be exceptional Formula One drivers in themselves. Then in 2019, those 3 moved on, and he was able to punch his way up to 1st place in the championship. So those 3 moved on, he's gone on, he's won the championship. Everyone was like, oh, okay, this is now his time to make a step up into Formula One. He's shown that he can win the junior championship. Let's see him step up into Formula One. I know Nicholas Latifi came in 2nd place, but still, he had to do it. He had to go out there and win those races in Formula 2. 2020 rolled around, and it just didn't quite work out for Nyck de Vries. There was never a space for him, so ended up moving over to Formula E, another opportunity to show his talent, show how good he was. And in 2021, he wins the Formula E World Championship. So now he's won both feeder series for Formula One. He's won both adjacent series to the main Formula One seat, and yet still can't find himself a spot in that Formula One grid. Getting closer, we've seen him in a Williams this season, but I still don't think he'll pick up that seat, even if Nicholas Latifi does drop out of the team. And I think, look, Nyck, you're incredibly good. You've won so many races. You've won Formula E and Formula 2, but you're just cursed. You're never, ever going to get yourself into Formula 1. Another man, though, who is linked to every single Formula 1 seat available is Nico Hulkenberg, but unfortunately, he will go down as the cursed driver who never picked up a podium. He had so many opportunities and such a good racing career since 2010, joining the Formula 1 grid. He's always been there. He's been so tenacious. He's shown so much talent over the course of his 183 starts in Formula 1. He was just never able to convert any of them into a podium. No silverware ever came the German driver's way, and he had so many opportunities to do so. I was looking back over the course of his career, looking at 2012 Brazil, 2014 Bahrain, 2016 Baku, Monaco, Spa, Brazil, 2017 Singapore, 2019 Germany. He was on the edge in all 8 of those races, so incredibly close to picking up that first piece of silverware in Formula 1, but it just eluded him. And now we've seen him back in Formula 1 for the start of the 2022 season, a couple of races for Aston Martin. Doesn't look like he's going to get a grid slot anywhere else, and he's going to go down as a driver who was so close to getting those podiums, but never quite able to do so. And also, whilst I was doing this research, I realised that he was 2nd choice behind Lewis Hamilton to pick up that 2013 Mercedes seat as well. Like, how incredibly different Nico Hulkenberg's career could have been had he got that Mercedes seat. We could be looking at a 6-time world champion in Nico Hulkenberg, but instead, he's the driver that never picked up a podium. Unlike this next German driver, who was able to pick up podiums over the course of his Formula 1 career, but was never able to turn them into victories. That's right, Nick Heidfeld goes down as the driver who is cursed to never win a Formula 1 Grand Prix. 13 podium finishes without ever tasting victory in Formula 1, and spanning 10 years in Formula 1 as well. His first podium was in 2001 in Brazil, finished in 2nd place behind David Coulthard, and his final podium slot was in 2011 Malaysia behind Sebastian Vettel and Jenson Button, coming home in 3rd place. But he was never able to pick up that elusive Formula 1 victory. As I touched on, 13 podium finishes. He was so incredibly close to picking up victories, especially 2008 was kind of the one for him. He was so incredibly close to picking up victories in that year. Robert Kubica, his teammate at the time at Williams, was able to pick up his one and only Formula 1 victory in that year, and that must just hurt a tiny little bit more that your teammate was able to pick up that victory and you were so incredibly close on 13 different occasions. But of course, we can't talk about curses in Formula 1 without talking about the man of the moment himself, himself, Charles Leclerc, and his home Grand Prix of Monaco. It just never goes his way when it comes to the Monaco Grand Prix. Going all the way back to 2017, he was still in Formula 2 at this point. He qualified on pole position for the feature race, but then suspension damage meant that he couldn't take part. 2018 had a brake failure, caused an accident. That was the end of his weekend. 2019, out in Q1, his worst qualifying of his home Grand Prix, hit into the barrier, had a puncture, had some floor damage, the end of his fun for that weekend again. And of course, 2021, last year, we all saw it. He qualified on pole position, but wasn't able to take part in the race because he ended up binning it into the wall and causing a red flag right at the end of the Monaco Grand Prix. And people saying, well, he only got that pole position because he hit into the wall. Yes, that's fair enough. But if you offered Charles Leclerc the opportunity to start second place and actually take part in the Grand Prix, I think he'd take that over the pole position trophy and the fact that he never even got to take part in the Grand Prix last year. And then we only have to go back a couple of weeks. He hit Niki Lauda's historic Ferrari car into the barriers again round Monaco. He just cannot catch a break when it comes to his home Grand Prix, but hopefully in 2022 the curse can be lifted because he needs some points and he needs to try and get back ahead of Max Verstappen in this Drivers' Championship. Whilst we're talking about Ferrari though, we have to touch on Felipe Massa and his cursed championship win that then wasn't a win. And actually, Felipe Massa over the course of his career was sensational. I know we've talked about drivers who didn't get a seat in Formula 1, didn't pick up podiums, didn't pick up wins, didn't pick up home wins, but Felipe Massa was one of the best drivers to never pick up a championship, in my opinion. And it was because of that cursed championship in 2008. Between 2006 and 2008, to be fair, Felipe Massa was one of the best drivers on the grid. 2006 came into a Ferrari that was incredibly quick, battling for titles, ended up just coming behind Fernando Alonso and Michael Schumacher. Fair enough, they're two very, very good drivers. But 2007 saw him locked in to his first real idea of getting a title shot. It was a four-way battle. And again, if you look at the names in this four-way battle, Kimi Raikkonen, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, and Felipe Massa, the four of them were all going for that Drivers' Championship in 2007. Unfortunately for Felipe, he was the one that kind of dipped off towards the end of the season. Kimi Raikkonen, his teammate, though, went on to pick up the trophy at the end of the year. 2008, though, was the curse year for Felipe Massa. He did so incredibly well over the course of that season. It was between him and Lewis Hamilton. It went down to his home Grand Prix in Brazil. All he had to do was finish first and hope that Lewis Hamilton finished sixth or below. It was still incredibly tense, and with mixed weather conditions, it looked like Felipe Massa was going to go on and do it. And Hamilton was running in sixth place. He was behind Sebastian Vettel at the time. Sebastian Vettel managed to weave his way through, get past a very young Lewis Hamilton, and it looked all over. Felipe Massa's garage was celebrating the win, celebrating the fact that the Brazilian was going to pick up the World Championship and a home Grand Prix victory all in one race. And then Timo Glock was going slowly. If you haven't seen it, it's well worth a Google. Lewis Hamilton picks up the victory of the championship with 3 corners left to go in Brazil, finishes in 5th place, does the absolute minimum that he needed to do to pick up the championship, and picks up obviously what has now become one of just 7 world championship wins for Lewis Hamilton. A phenomenal finish to the season, but Felipe Massa, those cursed 30 seconds where he was a Formula 1 world champion, must really, really hurt. But they're my 5 favourite curses in Formula 1. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. What's your favourite curse? Have I missed a driver who was cursed and nearly picked up an incredible Formula 1 story but just missed out? Let me know in the comments below. Whilst you're there, leave a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you next time.